Hello and welcome everyone to this analysis and breakdown from the first chapter of the first Harry Potter book, Dull Dursleys and their six sad symbols. So picture this, it's All Saints' Day, November 1st, 1981. But J.K. Rowling paints it as a dull gray Tuesday. But why specifically dull? Oh, it's not random. It's Rowling's way of introducing us to the very essence of the Dursley family. Seriously, Rowling throws in so many tiny, clever details to emphasize just how utterly dull the Dursleys are. It's mind-blowing. Like, have you ever wondered what the word Dursley actually means? Well, Rowling once revealed in an interview that Dursley is actually the name of a town, but the sound of it just feels flat, boring, and dull. Plus, it gives off this forbidding, unwelcoming vibe, like it's saying, stay away. Basically, by calling them the Dursleys, Rowling perfectly captures their dull and unwelcoming nature. And that's not all, Rowling admits. She has a habit of collecting such unusual, quirky names. That's how we get another odd name, Dudley. Interestingly, this is also the name of a real place. Rowling, in her classic humor, chose this peculiar, dull-sounding name for the youngest Dursley. And here's the kicker, the irony. From the Dursley family's perspective, they think they've given their precious little boy a superhero-worthy name, like Peter Parker, Bruce Banner, Dudley Dursley. But for the rest of the world, the Dursley family was meant to be as dull as possible, right? That's why Rowling named Mrs. Dursley Petunia. Why Petunia? Because Rowling once watched a cartoon as a kid where this woman was called Petunia. Ever since, she associated the name with something deeply unpleasant, something she really disliked. And that same dislike, that same sense of unpleasantness, was poured straight into the character of Petunia Dursley. Now, let's talk about our big guy, Vernon Dursley. What's the story behind his name? It's a name that Rowling never cared for because, well, Vernon as a character doesn't care about Harry at all, right? Like ever. Here's the thing, even Petunia and Dudley managed to show some care, just a pinch of humanity, by the end of the series. But this big guy, Vernon, nope, from start to finish, he never shows an ounce of care for Harry. He remains as cold and uncaring as ever. Let's not forget that our big guy Vernon is a director at a company called Grunnings. And what do they make? Drills. And what do drills do? They bore holes. Get it? Even the company motto says it all. Boring is our business. This is another subtle nod from Rowling to how dull and boring the Dursleys are. Fun fact, even Petunia started her career at this same boring company, Grunnings. That's where she met Vernon. He was just like her, totally unmagical, super ordinary, extremely opinionated, meaning stubborn as a mule, and materialistic, obsessed with money. And Petunia saw all that and thought, this is it, my perfect match, my model man. And so they got married and settled down at number 4 Privet Drive. Even their address is dripping with dullness. Rowling really doubled down on the Dursleys' vibe with this one. Why number 4? Well, it turns out Rowling just hates the number 4. There's no logical reason, just one of those random superstitions. But she wanted to portray the Dursleys as so hard, so unforgiving, so cold-hearted, that she slapped this ominous number right on their front door. As for Privet Drive, the name comes from the privet plant, which Brits often use to create hedges around their garden. Just like those hedges create a boundary. It's a perfect metaphor for the Dursley, who also want a hard boundary, a literal wall between themselves and the magical world. That's some top-notch symbolism right there. And there's more. The Dursleys live in an area called Little Whinging. Now, whinging means complaining or whining, and little means, well, small. Isn't that spot on for the Dursley? Constantly whining, always complaining, and making a big deal out of every tiny little inconvenience. Take a moment to recollect how many dull symbols have been tied to the Dursley family. So can you imagine how weird their brains must work? We will dive into their perfectly normal brain in our next breakdown of this chapter.